This is from the book, The Member of the Wedding. It happened that green and crazy summer, when Frankie was 12 years old. It was a summer when for a long time she had not been a member. She belonged to no club, and she was a member of nothing in the world. Frankie had become an unjoined person who hung around in doorways, and she was afraid. In June, the trees were bright, dizzy green, and later the leaves darkened, and the town turned black and shrunken under the glare of the sun. At first, Frankie walked around, doing one thing and another. The sidewalks of the town were gray in the early morning and at night, but the noon sun put a glaze on them, so that the cement burned and glittered like glass. The sidewalks finally became too hot for Frankie's feet, and also she got herself in trouble. She was in so much secret trouble that she thought it was better to stay at home. And at home there was only Berenice Sadie Brown and John Henry West. The three of them sat at the kitchen table, saying the same things over and over, so that by August the words began to rhyme with each other and sound strange. The world seemed to die each afternoon, and nothing moved any longer. At last the summer was like a green, sick dream, or like a silent, crazy jungle under glass. Then on the last Friday of August, all this was changed. It was so sudden that Frankie puzzled the whole blank afternoon, and still she could not understand. This is the last lines of Act 1 of the play Member of the Wedding. Frankie. Shush, I just now realized something. The trouble with me is that for a long time I've been an I person. Other people can say we. When Berenice says we, she means her lodge and church and colored people. Soldiers can say we and mean the army. All people belong to a we except me. John Henry. What are we going to do? Frankie. Not to belong to a we makes you too lonesome. Until this afternoon I didn't have a we, but now after seeing Jarvis and Janice, I suddenly realized something. John Henry. What? Frankie. I know that the bride and my brother are the we of me, so I'm going with them and joining with the wedding. This coming Sunday, when my brother and the bride leave this town, I'm going with them to Winter Hill, and after that to whatever place they will ever go. I love the two of them so much, and we belong to be together. I love the two of them so much because they are the we of me. I'm reading now from The Hardest Lonely Hunter. In the town there were two mutes, and they were always together. Early every morning, they would come out from the house where they lived and walk arm in arm down the street to work. The two friends were very different. The one who always steered the way was an obese and dreamy Greek. In the summer, he would come out wearing a yellow and green polo shirt, stuffed sloppily in his trousers in front and hanging loose behind. When it was colder, he wore over this a shapeless gray sweater. His face was round and oily, and his half-closed eyelids and lips were curved in a gentle, stupid smile. The other mute was tall. His eyes had a quick, intelligent expression. He was always immaculate and very soberly dressed. Every morning the two friends walked silently together until they reached the main street of the town. Then when they came to a certain fruit and candy store, they paused for a moment on the sidewalk outside. The Greek, Spiros Antonopoulos, worked for his cousin who owned this fruit store. His job was to make candies and sweets, uncrate the fruits, and keep the place clean. The thin mute, John Singer, nearly always put his hand on his friend's arm and looked for a moment into his face before leaving him. After this goodbye, Singer crossed the street and walked on to the jewelry store where he worked as a silverware engraver. In the afternoon, the friends would meet again. Singer came back to the fruit store and waited until Antonopoulos was ready to go home. The big Greek would be lazily unpacking a case of melons or peaches, or perhaps looking at a paper bag in the kitchen behind the store while he cooked. Before their departure, Antonopoulos always opened the paper sack he had kept hidden during the day on one of the kitchen's shelves. Inside was stored various bits of food he had collected, a piece of fruit, samples of candy, or the butt end of a liverwurst. Usually before leaving Antonopoulos, he waddled gently to the closed case of the front store where the meats and cheeses were kept. He glided open the case, and his fat hand groped lovingly for the particular dainty which he wanted. Sometimes his cousin, who owned the place, did not see him. If he noticed, he stared at his cousin with a warning in his tight, pale face. Sadly, Antonopoulos would shuffle the morsel from one corner to the other. During these times, Singer stood very straight with his hands in his pockets and looked in another direction. Did not like to see this scene between the two Greeks, for except for drinking and a certain solitary secret pleasure, Antonopoulos loved to eat more than anything else in the world. At dusk, the two mutes walked slowly home together. At home, Singer was always talking to Antonopoulos. His hands shaped the word in a swift series of designs. His face was eager, and his gray-green eyes sparkled brightly. With his thin, strong hands, he told Antonopoulos all that had happened during the day. Antonopoulos sat back lazily and looked at Singer. It was seldom that he ever moved his hands to speak at all, and then it was when he said he wanted to sleep or to drink. These three things he said in a vague, fumbling signs. At night he would kneel down on the bed and pray a while. His plump hands shaped the words, Holy Jesus, our God, our darling Mary. These were the only words Antonopoulos ever said. Singer never knew just how much his friend understood of all the things he told him, but it did not matter. They shared the upstairs of a house near the business section of the town. There were 2 rooms. On the oil stove in the kitchen, Antonopoulos cooked all their meals. There were straight, plain kitchen chairs for Singer, an overstuffed sofa for Antonopoulos. The bedroom was furnished with a large double bed covered by an eiderdown comfort for the big Greek and an iron cot for Singer. Dinner always took a long time because Antonopoulos loved food and he was very slow. After he had eaten, the big Greek would lie back on the sofa and slowly lick each one of his teeth with his tongue, either from a certain delicacy or because he did not want to lose the savor of the meal, while Singer washed the dishes. Sometimes in the evening, the mutes would play chess. Singer had always greatly enjoyed this game, and years before he had tried to teach it to Antonopoulos. At first his friend would not be interested in the reason for moving the various pieces on the board. Then Singer began to keep a bottle of something good under the table to be taken out after each lesson. The Greek never got on with the erratic movements of the knights and the sweeping mobility of the queens, but he learned to play a few set opening moves. He preferred the white pieces and would not play if black men were given to him. After the first moves, Singer worked out the game by himself, while his friend looked on drowsily. If Singer made brilliant attacks on his own men, so that at the end the black king was killed, Antonopoulos was always very proud and pleased. The two mutes had no other friends, and except when they worked, they were always alone together. Each day was very much like every other day. They were alone so much that nothing ever disturbed them. Once a week they would go to the library for Singer to withdraw a mystery story, and Friday night they attended the movie. Then on payday, they always went to the 10-cent photographer shop above the Army and Navy store, so that Antonopoulos could have his picture taken. Those were the only places that they made customary visits. There were parts of the town they had never seen. The town was in the middle of the deep south. The summers were long, and the months of winter were cold and very few. Nearly always the sky was a glassy, brilliant azure, and the sun burned down riotously bright. Then the light, chill rains of November would come, and perhaps there would be frost and some months of cold. The winters were changeable, but summers were always burning hot. The town was a fairly large one. On the main street there were several blocks of 2- or 3-story stores and office buildings. But the largest buildings in the town were factories, which employed a large percent of the population. These cotton mills were flourishing, and most of the workers in the town were very poor. Often in the faces along the street there was a desperate look of hunger and loneliness. The two mutes were not lonely at all. At home they were content to eat and drink, and Singer would talk with his hands eagerly to his friend, with all that was in his mind. So the years passed in this quiet way, and Singer reached the age of 32 and had been in the town with Antonopoulos for 10 years. Select your sorrows if you can. Edit your ironies. Even grieve with guile. Adjust to a world divided, which demands your candid senses stoop to labyrinthine wiles. What natural alchemy lends to the scrubby grocery boy with dirty hair the luster of Apollo, or golden hyacinth's fabled stare? If you must cross the April park, be brisk. Avoid the cadence of the evening, eyes from afar, lest you be held as a security risk. Solicit only the evening star. The world that jibes your tenderness jailed your lust, bewildered by the paradox of all your musts, turning from horizon to horizon, noonday to dusk. It may be only you can understand. On a mild sea afternoon of blue and gold, when the sky is the mild blue of a Chinese bowl, the bones of hot crane sailors and the drugstore man beat on the ocean's floor the same saraband. It is another poem. There was a time when stone was stone, and the face on the street was a finished face. Between the thing, myself, and God alone, there was an instant symmetry. Now all is changed. This trinity is twisted. Stone is not stone, and faces like the fractioned characters in dreams are incomplete, until in the child's unfinished face I recognize your exiled eyes. The soldier climbs the evening stair, leaving your shadow. Tonight this torn room sleeps beneath the starlight, bent by you. This is another poem. When we are lost, what image tells? Nothing resembles nothing. Yet nothing is not blank. It is configured hell. Of notice clocks on winter afternoons, malignant stars, demanding furniture, all unrelated, and with air between. The terror, is it of space, of time, or the joint trickery of both conceptions? To the lost, transfixed among the self-inflicted ruins, all that is non-air, if this indeed is not deception, is agony immobilized. While time, the endless idiot, runs screaming round the world. These are some selections of the Ballad of the Sad Cafe. The town itself is dreary. Not much is there except the cotton mill, the two-room houses where the workers live, a few peach trees, a church with two colored windows, and a miserable main street only 100 yards long. On Saturdays, the tenants from the nearby farms come in for a day of talk and trade. Otherwise, the town is lonesome and sad, like a place that is estranged from all other places in the world. The nearest train stop is Society City, and the Greyhound and White bus lines use the Fox Falls Road, which is a few miles away. The winters are raw and sharp, the summers white with glare and fiery hot. If you walk down the main street on an August afternoon, there is nothing to do. The largest building in the center of the town is boarded up completely and leans so far to the right that it is bound to collapse at any moment. This house is very old. There is about it a cracked, curious look that is puzzling until you realize that at one time and long ago, the right side of the front porch had been painted, and the painting was left unfinished, so that one portion of the house is dingier and darker than the other. The building looks completely deserted. However, on the second floor, there is a window that is not boarded. Sometimes in the late afternoons, when the heat is at its worst, A hand will open the shutter, and a face will look down to the town. It is a face like the terrible dim faces known in dreams, sexless and white, and two great crossed eyes, which turn inward so sharply that they seem to be exchanging with each other one long and secret gaze of grief. The face lingers at the window for an hour or so. Then the shutter is closed once more, and there is not likely to be a soul on the main street. These August afternoons, when the shift is finished, there is absolutely nothing to be done. You might as well walk down to the Fox Falls Highway and listen to the chain gang. However, in this very town there was once a cafe, and this old boarded-up house was unlike any other place for many miles around. There were tables with cloths and napkins, colored streamers from electric fans, and gatherings on Saturday nights. The owner of this place was Miss Amelia Evans, but the person who was most responsible for the success and gaiety of the place was a hunchback called Cousin Lyman. One other person had a part in the story of the cafe. He was the former husband of Miss Amelia, a terrible character who returned to the town after a long time in the penitentiary, caused ruin, and then went on his way again. The cafe has long since been closed, but it is still remembered. Now some explanation is due for all this behavior. The time has come to speak about love. For Miss Amelia loved Cousin Lyman. That was clear to everyone. They lived in the same house together and never seen apart. Therefore, according to Mrs. MacPhail, a water-nosed old busybody who was always moving her sticks of furniture from one part of the room to another, according to her and certain others, those two were living in sin. If they were related, they were crossed between first and second cousins, and even that could no way be proved. Now, of course, Miss Amelia was a powerful blunderbuss of a person, more than 6 feet tall, and Cousin Lyman a weakly hunchback, reaching harder to her waist. But so much the better for Mrs. Stumpy MacPhail and her cronies, for they and their kind glory in conjunctions that are ill-matched and pitiful. So let them be. The good people of the town thought that if those two had some satisfaction of the flesh between them, that was a matter concerning them and God alone. All sensible people agreed in their opinion about this conjecture, and their answer was a plain, flat no. What sort of thing, then, was this love? First of all, love is a joint experience between two persons. But the fact that it is a joint experience does not mean that it is a similar experience to the two people involved. There is the lover and the beloved, but those two come from different countries. Often the beloved is a stimulus for the stored-up love that has been laying dormant in the lover for a long time. And somehow every lover knows this. He feels in his soul that his love is a solitary thing. He comes to know a new, strange loneliness, and this knowledge makes him suffer. So there is only one thing for the lover to do. He must house his love within himself as best he can. He must create for himself a new inward world, a world intense and strange, complete in itself. Let it be added here that this lover, about whom we speak, is not necessarily a young man saving for a wedding ring. A lover may be man, woman, child, or indeed any human creature on this earth. Now the beloved can be of any description. The most outlandish people can be the stimulus for love. A man may be a doddering great-grandfather and love only a strange girl he saw on the streets of Cheehaw 2 decades past. The preacher may love a fallen woman. The beloved may be treacherous, greasy-headed, and given to evil habits. Yes, and the lover may see this as clearly as anyone else. But this does not affect the evolution of his love one whit. The most mediocre person can be the object of a love that is wild, extravagant, and beautiful as the poison lilies of the swamp. A good man may be the stimulus for a love both violent and debased, or a jabbering madman may bring about in the soul of someone a tender and simple idol. Therefore, the value and quality of any love is determined solely by the lover himself. It is for this reason that most of us would rather love than be loved. Almost everyone wants to be the lover, and the curt truth is that in a secret way, the state of being beloved is intolerable to many. The beloved hates and fears the lover, and for the best of reasons, for the lover is forever trying to strip bare his beloved. The lover craves any possible relation with the beloved, even if it can cause him only pain. This is the end of the Battle of the Sad Cafe. Yes, the town is dreary. On August afternoons the road is empty, white with dust, and the sky above is bright as glass. Nothing moves. There are no children's voices, only the hum of the mill. The peach trees seem to be more crooked each summer, and the leaves are of a dull, sickly delicacy. The house of Miss Amelia leans so to the right that it's now only a question of time when it will collapse altogether, and people are careful not to walk around the yard. There is no good liquor in the town to be bought. The nearest still is 8 miles away, and the liquor is such that those who drink it grow warts on their livers, the size of goobers, and dream themselves into a dangerous inward world. There is absolutely nothing to do in the town. Walk around the mill pond, kick the old rotten stump, figure out what you would do with an old wagon wheel that has been on the road near the church. The soul rots with boredom. You might as well go down to the Foxpaws Highway and listen to the chain gang. The 12 Mortal Men. The Foxpaws Highway is 3 miles from the town, and it is there that the chain gang has been working. The road is of macadam, and the county has decided to patch up the rough places and widen it at dangerous spots. The gang is made up of 12 men, all wearing black and white striped prison suits and chained at the ankles. There is a guard with a gun, his eyes drawn to red slits by the glare. The gang works all day long, arriving huddled in the prison cart before daybreak and being driven off again in the gray August twilight. All day there's the sound of the picks striking clay earth, the hard sunlight, and the smell of sweat. And every day there's music. One dark voice will start a phrase, half sung and like a question, and after a moment another voice will join in. Soon the whole gang will be singing. The voices are dark in the golden glare, the music intricately blended, both somber and joyful. The music will swell until at last it seems that the sound comes not from the 12 men on the gang, but from the earth itself, the wide sky. It is music that causes the heart to broaden and the listener to go cold with ecstasy and fright. Then slowly the music will sink down, until at last there remains only one lonely voice and a great hoarse breath, the sun, the sound of the picks in the silence. And what kind of gang is this that can make such music? Just 12 mortal men, 7 of them black and 5 of them white boys in this county. Just 12 mortal men who are together.